The city of Bristol employs 350 people with 143 individual job titles spread across 8 different departments. But what do their jobs have them doing? Now you can find out. The people are real. The jobs are real. The work is real. This is a day in the life of a city employee. On this episode of A Day in the Life of a City Employee, we follow around Bristol firefighter Nathan Johnson.
My name is Nathan Johnson. I'm a firefighter and paramedic with the Bristol Tennessee Fire Department. First thing we walk through the door, we usually change in our uniforms. Most of the time our uniforms are still here. We'll change in our uniforms. The shift that's on before us will give us a rundown of what they had the day before, if there's anything missing off the trucks, any maintenance issues. So we'll take a report from them. Around 8 o'clock is when our shift starts. So the central dispatch usually gives a radio check. So when that radio check goes off, then that's our cue to the day's starting. So we'll go check off the radio. Depending on what you're assigned to during the day, it could be the engine, the ambulance, or the ladder at this station. You'll be the driver or the operator of that engine, and you'll check the radio off. You'll pull the engines out, do an apparatus check on all the equipment, and we'll go from there and we'll start cleaning. After we get everything clean, we try to sit down for breakfast, and then we listen to the captain and see what the day holds. On the engine, we check the pumps, all the lights, make sure everything's in proper working order. Any kind of piece of equipment that we have on that engine, we usually run it every day. It's not only make sure that your equipment's running, but it also familiarizes yourself with where it's at all the time. There's a lot of equipment on each piece of apparatus, so when you have a couple days off, your mind kind of goes away from this place. You kind of familiarize yourself every time you check your truck off. We want to make sure everything's running. We don't want to get out on an emergency scene and say, hey, well, this ain't running now. So not the time to find that out when you're trying to use it. So we make sure everything's running. If it's not running, we'll try to repair it before the shift starts.
Keeping the truck's equipment in check and running is crucial in an emergency situation.
I always keep water with us on, especially on our summer months. We try to keep cold water. Keep everybody hydrated.
On the dirtier side of things, each firefighter shift has their list of daily chores. The chore for this group? Mopping.
Everything gets mopped here.
With a different group on shift living at the station each day, it's a heavy task to keep it clean. After everything is cleaned spotless, it's time to see who is assigned to what truck.
But each, you can see on this station 1, 2, and 3, and 4, each person will have, we have an officer and a driver at least. So we'll change that out. I'll get the list for today.
When all of that's complete, they can finally find time to sit down for breakfast. After breakfast, things get more technical, listing fire hydrants in a computer database. This way, the fire department knows if a fire hydrant is out of service or how much water a working one can put out.
Deleted off my computer. What we're doing now is entering hydrant testing dates in the database of we got a whole database of hydrants of every hydrant in the city. When it was tested, what it flowed, how many gallons per minute it flows, and the test date. It'll show where they're located. So if we type in 1202, so we'll get Highway 394 across from the pole 253. So what this is telling me, it's got the number of outlets, what it flowed, static pressure, and the residual pressure. All that's formulated in. When they test the hydrants, they plug this information in.
But what started off as a slow day quickly speeds up as the first emergency call comes in. Usually, the ambulance is the first vehicle on scene, even at fires. That way, fast medical attention can be given to anyone in need. In less than a minute from getting the call, the engine is en route. Arriving on the scene, it is hard to determine what to expect. Today, Nathan's job is to stay with the truck and operate the pump if needed.
Central Point 3.
Point 30.
Driving on point.
10-4.
What we do here is, on a high-rise fire alarm, they'll send a crew up to investigate. They'll usually go to the fire floor below, and they'll walk up the stairs and check the fire alarm. The commander will be in the fire room. He's got camera controls and see the elevator. So they'll send one crew up, usually with an officer. They'll investigate whatever room number it was showing on the fire alarm. Now to deem what set the alarm off. A lot of times we have cooking incidents at this location. Alarms are real sensitive.
What was just a cooking incident quickly develops into a life-threatening medical condition.
They're upstairs, ma'am.
Oh, well, we got somebody in the office sick.
Okay. What's the matter with her?
Well, she's been sick off and on a lot and everything. She's had to be put in the hospital. And she come through here, she was fine. When she got to the office door, she just collapsed and started getting sick again.
Okay, she's right in there. Mm-hmm. I'll see if I can get them down there.
Okay.
Command Rescue 1.
Nathan quickly responds, grabbing the medical bag out of the truck.
Command West, that was clear. Copy. Street Command Assistant.
Go ahead.
Create a new...
Walking into a blind situation, you have to be ready for anything.
Rescue 1 will be on scene up to check.
Right.
Sometimes it don't last that long.
Yeah. That's some rough stuff, though, ain't it? Being that nauseous.
It just comes out.
We got a captain that works with us. He has it.
After an examination, nausea turns out to be the culprit. But the strong-willed patients decide a trip to the hospital is not needed.
Well, if you don't want to go to the hospital, what I have to do is get you to sign a form saying you don't want to go with us. Releases the fire department any liability, okay? If you feel worse, you want to change your mind, call us right back, okay?
Yeah, okay.
You sure you don't want to go?
No, it'll pass.
We'll follow you out there if you want to go.
No, thank you.
Is she okay?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Nathan heads back to the truck to get a liability release form.
If somebody calls for an ambulance, don't necessarily have to go to the hospital. They can refuse treatment or transport. However, they have to sign a release of liability form. So if we leave and something was to happen after the fact, if they have signed that form, then they can't hold the fire department liable because they've offered to take them to definitive care.
But while he is gone, the patient's condition worsens, and she decides to make the call to go to the hospital.
We park this cot right here. I can help you out there. We'll get you right back.
Hi, you want me to take it?
Raise your arm for me. There you go.
Okay. We'll be up there.
You got everything you need? All right. Set that up on. Right here.
What started out as a call for a possible fire quickly turned into a dire health situation. It just goes to show that anything can happen when on a call.
Of course, we got dispatched to the fire alarm. They deemed that it was a cooking incident. No fire was there. Some smoke. They ventilated some smoke out of the residence. While we were here, we had a medical call. Of course, our ambulance was here, but when we were already down here, the ambulance was responding to the fire. So they was kind of preoccupied at the moment. So we provided some first aid, checked her vitals. They're going to end up transporting her to the hospital.
After a successful call, it's time to head back to the station. But first, a stop for gas.
Anytime it gets 3/4, we fill up. That way we always got a full tank. If we're out on a long incident, then we need that much to get us through. And even then, it could go over that. So we try to keep it at 3/4 all the time. You don't have to fill up the engines as much as the ambulance because they're running more. We'll try to keep those at 3/4 as well.
After the truck's fuel tank is topped off, it's back to the station for training. Part of today's training is taking place 150 feet in the air. As the ladder goes higher and higher, it can be tricky maneuvering around the power lines and structures. What can be easy in training can turn into a life-threatening situation when on the scene. The rush of an emergency can lead to the ladder going into a power line, shocking anyone touching the truck on the ground. Each week, firefighters have to complete so many hours of training. This week's training is all about saving a downed firefighter.
Every fire that we go on, we got 2 men into a structure, we have 2 men out that's ready to respond if something was to happen to those. We call it a RIT team.
And that's just to feel
They have a RIT bag, it has an SCBA in it, it's called a RIT pack. What they're simulating now is a failure of a mast, and we're going to switch out his mast, and then they can exit the structure. That's what the whole purpose is not to break your seal. You're not inhaling any toxic gases from any IDLH atmosphere.
Got that ready to go. Flip this one. Deep breath. Deep breath. There you go. Take it. Put that one off. You're going to hold. Put that one on. Cinch it down. Cinch it down.
If we stay static for a moment of time, they'll start chirping, and then they'll go off. You'll hear that right there. And that way, if we're down and nobody can see inside, you can actually hear it. So we'll be going towards that sound.
Being able to swap an oxygen mask out could mean the difference in a life or death situation. After practicing in the daylight, it's time to go in a burning building scenario where visibility is low and the brightest of flashlights shine just a few inches. During the exercise, instructors stand by watching from a thermal imaging camera. Working in low visibility, the firefighters have to locate their downed brother, swap out their mask, and pull them to safety. With the new mask on, they pull him to safety. Well, at least most of the way. Being a training exercise, they can't pass up picking on the rookie.